When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
Good morning, live from Washington, D.C., a special edition of Daybreak. Glad to have you on board with us. A lot to cover here today. I'm in the nation's capital for some important information coming your way in the next day or two. We'll talk about that coming up. But here are the three big things to cover this hour. Number one, the sudden death of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham by what appears to be a heart condition at 71 caught the political world off guard, set off a frenzy to replace him quickly to fill that seat. Number two, Senator Graham was not my favorite, I'll be honest, but he was a champion for many of the priorities of America First and a friend of President Trump, even though they disagreed on some things. And number three, the president actually spoke to Senator Graham upon his return from a trip to Ukraine on Saturday, appearing on Meet the Press. Here's what President Trump had to say.
President Trump, thank you for joining us, and my condolences to you.
Well, thank you. He's a tough one to lose. He was great. He was unique in every way, actually.
He was, Mr. President, and I know that we are all just absorbing this news. We are all in shock. Can you tell us, Mr. President, how you received this news and your immediate gut reaction when you heard it?
So what makes it even stranger is that I got a call last night sometime at, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. I had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker. But he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired. But he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it. And that was, very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly. But I got a message about 1 o'clock in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it. He was like a member of the family to me. It's very tough, actually. It's amazing.
Mr. President,
he was such an advocate. He was, if he wanted to get something, and he had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
And there's the president on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker yesterday. Joining me now on the program, Colonel Rob Maness from the Rob Maness program. Rob, I appreciate you joining me here today. We've got a lot to cover. Let's start with the death of Lindsey Graham. As I pointed out, not my favorite on several things, but a staunch supporter of President Trump most of the time, and it is a loss for this administration. What are your thoughts when you heard about the death of Lindsey Graham?
Well, thanks for having me on, Steve. It's always a sad day for our country when somebody that loves its country and has served it for so long loses them suddenly like this. So we pray for Lindsey's family, his sister, who he adopted when she, I think, was only 13 after his mother and his father passed away, and a man who served his country in uniform for over 30 years as a judge advocate general attorney in the United States Air Force, who volunteered to go to Afghanistan, by the way, and do a combat tour there. Was awarded a Bronze Star for his efforts. And look, as you said, staunch supporter of this president, Donald J. Trump, even though he had opposed him in the political campaigns for various reasons. And they didn't agree on everything. And look, Lindsey Graham is not my favorite guy. I'm on record calling him out on very, very many things. But uh, the things that he worked in the background beyond the TV cameras, getting Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh approved through that process, which, as we all remember, was very arduous and really detrimental to the country. Uh, Things like the big, beautiful bill, getting the funding that this president needed to actually implement the policies in the second term that he ran on and won on. Those kinds of things we owe him really big time, I think the president would say, for all those efforts, and he's going to be missed. And the really troubling thing was he had been working on the Save America Act very, very effectively. And in that last conversation, told the president that he thought we were there and we'd have it soon. And that's probably the most important piece of legislation that Lindsey Graham or any American will ever work on.
Might be the most important legislation in decades, as far as I'm concerned, to make sure that American elections are secured. I mean, there are still questions outstanding from 2020. I know there's people working to find out the information, but until we have actual information that can say, look, here's what happened and lay it out black and white, it's going to be somewhat nebulous. But you're right, Lindsey Graham was a champion of the Save America Act, which brings me to who replaces him. There have been some names tossed around. I know that Governor McMaster, his name has actually been included on the list because the president likes the governor of South Carolina. I don't think he'll appoint himself. He could, I suppose, under state law. But it's important that we replace Lindsey Graham with somebody who is just as dedicated to America first, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is, and we can't allow ourselves, and I'm sure Governor McMaster's understands this, to be impressed with the glittery, the TV show type personalities, those kind of things. This man, to replace him, he
Anybody
was a
come to
worker.
mind? Anybody come to mind when you say glittery TV types?
He was a worker, and I don't want to give him any name ID, quite honestly, Steve, because
Yeah.
the governor's got a hard job to do because Lindsey Graham was a workhorse. I think the president did a good job alluding to that and identifying that. I mean, the man just worked very similarly to what this current president works. I think they had a similar type work schedule. They probably talked often at 2 o'clock in the morning, more often than any other two people, more than likely. But the list is not real long. The governor is all over it. I've been in contact with grassroots activists that really understand the political lay of the land in South Carolina over the last 24 hours. They tell me that there's 4 or 5 names that are on that list, and there are some personalities on there, TV type personalities. But you know what? It's got to be somebody that will work as hard as Graham, that loves this country as much as he did. As much as I disagreed with him on some of the war policies he
Agreed.
pushed, uh, uh,
Yeah.
he loved this country and had its best interests at heart, had the American people's best interests at heart, and that's the type of person we need to represent South Carolina
Absolutely.
as a U.S. senator.
Let's hold that thought, Rob. We're going to hold you through the break and continue to talk because we got to talk about Iran. I'd like to do a little follow up if we've got time on the Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing. So much in the headlines right now. Colonel Rob Maness will be right back with us here on Daybreak. All right, the day before he died, Senator Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine with President Volodymyr Zelensky, working to bring that war to an end, and he thought he had found a breakthrough. Here's part of what he said.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, Lindsay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got a little update for you here.
Yeah,
Just tell me when I can talk. But good visit with the president, right?
yeah, I think that we had really a good meeting.
Yeah, I
The
think
mood
so
was
too,
good,
yeah.
and we had some very important results. And I think that the decision of President Trump about licenses, positive signals about Patriot licenses, very important.
Colonel Rob Main is with me again. Rob, the breakthroughs in Ukraine, this has been a very difficult thing for President Trump. He thought he could solve this one much easier. Lindsey Graham was working in Ukraine. And again, this is one of the places that I did not agree with the senator on some of the approaches to Ukraine. You and I had our questions about that, but he was working very hard. Now we've got an escalation with the war in Iran again. A couple of hundred targets hit in the last 48 hours, taking out Iran's abilities to interrupt traffic on the Strait of Hormuz. These are places that Lindsey Graham was lockstep with the president. So he has lost an ally in those fights, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. But good news on both fronts, though. You know, this president is trying to end these wars. He didn't start them. The enemies started them, and a lot of mistakes were made in the Ukraine situation, as you know, especially on the west part and the United States part, that resulted in combat action occurring. But I think we're on our way again to a path to peace. Look, the Iranians are the Iranians, as we have said, and you and I've talked many times about this, Steve. The Iranian way of thinking is to be able to lie to achieve their objectives. The MOU has been very tenuous from the outset because of that mentality. The people that run that country, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, are fanatics that really truly believe that they need to bring the end of the world to happen to fulfill their prophecies that they believe in the Quran. And it's just very, very difficult to get to a peace deal that can hold for any length of time. The Iranians are intransigent and defiant, have been the entire time, the ones that hold the triggers for missiles and drones and those kinds of things, regardless of what the political negotiators are saying. And quite honestly, this is pretty routine from the Iranian perspective over the last nearly 5 decades. Whenever anybody from the West has tried to get them to the table so that they can rejoin the community of nations and be friends and good trading partners and peaceful, it's just a very, very difficult proposition. And the president of the United States is responding very appropriately, as I've said many times, that these people have to be held accountable at every single point that they break their word that they signed on the dotted line for on the MOU. We have to hold them accountable. We cannot let up at all. And the United States is doing the right thing right now.
It's very difficult to negotiate with dishonest brokers on the other side. If you're the only honest person at the poker game, it's hard to play cards. That's a fact. CENTCOM says that the Strait of Hormuz remains open after Iran said it is closed. CENTCOM says that's simply not the case. There have been some attacks on some commercial vessels. Iran also firing at several of its Gulf neighbors. Just erratic, it seems to me. I don't know if there really is any command and control inside Iran right now, but we'd like to see this end. I don't know if it's going to be possible to bring this thing to an end because, as you pointed out, they're zealots. It's a holy war to them. How does this thing come to a close? How does it end?
Well, as President Trump has rightly pointed out, we're on layer 3 of their leadership from a political and military perspective. And I just quite honestly think that we're going to have to continue to grind them down. The negotiators are still talking, quite honestly, in the background. The Iranians called after the second set of large strikes this week and said, "Hey, we're still talking, and we want to keep talking to Mr. Witkoff and the vice president and Mr. Kushner So that is still ongoing, believe it or not. But again, the disconnect is between those in the IRGC that hold the military triggers and the command and control for that, and the political folks that are trying to do these negotiations. There is a complete
Sure.
disconnect there. And really, the Iranians designed it into their system with this Mosaic defense system. As we've talked about many times, the units, when they're disconnected from the command and control system, have permission and targets that they are allowed to strike at will without talking to anybody. And I believe that's what you're actually witnessing here for the most part. 9 times out of 10, when this occurs, is that these units are doing what they think they're supposed to be doing. And they're going to continue to do that until they're destroyed or eventually the IRGC leadership is ground down to where they're ineffective.
I've only got about 30 seconds here, Rob, but I do want you to weigh in on this, the Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing, because despite a truckload of evidence, videos, confessions, DNA, some of these folks on the internet just refuse to give up the ghost of the conspiracy theory that somehow the Israelis or the Egyptians or somebody else was involved in Tyler Robinson's, Charlie Kirk's assassination last year. Real quickly, can these people not just admit maybe they were wrong? 30 seconds.
Well, they're making a lot of money out of it, Steve, and they're never going to admit they were wrong because they're making a lot of money out of it. Unfortunately, I just remind everybody, Charlie Kirk didn't get due process, and this Robinson character is getting more due process than any American really has a right to. And the folks that support Charlie Kirk, like you and I, and that know him and his team, have been right all along. This man is a crazy. He's a Trantifa type person, and he killed Charlie Kirk for political reasons, and there's no doubt about it any longer.
Colonel Rob Maness, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you for getting up early. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a break. This is Daybreak. Yeah, it's remarkable. The theories about the death of Lindsey Graham continue to float around. And look, this is going to fill the internet feeds for social media feeds for probably a while. He was in Ukraine. He had just returned and he died of an aortic dissection. His aorta basically came apart, for simple terms. And there are symptoms that can be watched for. In this particular case, if the symptoms were there, they were overlooked or not understood. And so the senator dies at the age of 71. Also dying today, Sam Neill, the star of Jurassic Park. Having just announced he had overcome blood cancer, the 78-year-old star of Jurassic Park has died. So there's a little bit of side information to you. Meanwhile, so here in Washington, D.C. this week, we are told that there could be some big news happening. That's why I'm here in the nation's capital. I'll be at the White House today and I guess shadowing the president and what he does this week. I'm going to guess the president, if possible, if they can secure the venue, that the president would attend the funeral of Lindsey Graham. We'll keep an eye on that to see what his plans are for dealing with that. I will tell you this: I did not sleep well last night, and why not? Because I didn't have my ghost bed. It's true. Airbnb is lovely. Avi always does a fine job giving me the right Airbnb. It was lovely in DC in Logan Circle area. But the bed, just not the same. If you want to sleep like a stone, like I do when I'm at home, you need an American made ghost bed. That's what you need. I'm telling you, you will improve your sleep with the ghost bed. It's a better price, it's a better product, and you have 101 days to determine whether or not you love it. And if you don't, they'll come right to your house and pick it up. No questions asked, no problem. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code is Gruber. You'll save 10% off the best price of the year right now on the Ghostbed. Go check it out at ghostbed.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. And trust me, if you want to sleep like a stone, like I usually do, and when I'm not on the road, then you'll appreciate the Ghostbed. I missed mine last night. Don't miss yours any longer. Ghostbed.com. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Daybreak, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. this week. We'll be on location for some special editions of Daybreak. Glad you're here with us to start the week. You know, one of the things that has often bothered me and others is the seeming lack of investigation into what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, for example, when the president was hit by a bullet. Others were killed. but the investigation always seemed like it was, I don't know, incomplete maybe. My next guest might feel the same way. Ken Silva is an investigative journalist, author of The Trump Assassination Plots, plural. What the investigations missed and why it matters. Ken, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good to be with you.
Good to have you here. I've always felt that the investigation into Butler was thin and not done particularly well. Am I wrong?
Well, you're absolutely right. And it's so egregious that even Trump seems to be misinformed about the basic facts of what happened that day. Today's the 2-year anniversary. And I think a lot of people, when they look back on it, they remember the ridiculous excuse about how the Secret Service didn't have snipers on the roof that was used by the would-be assassin because it was, quote, too sloped, which of course was ludicrous. And the former director walked that back and later had to resign in disgrace. But what most people don't realize is the Secret Service did absolutely nothing that day. And it was a local cop on the ground who actually shot the would-be assassin within 5 seconds. And then a Secret Service sniper put a final bullet through him a whole 10 seconds later, which is why I've been kind of referring to today as Aaron Zalaponi Day, because that's the name of the local cop who kind of saved countless lives. And Trump doesn't seem to know that, which is kind of odd.
So, what do we know about the assassin today? I mean, his body was cremated. He had connections to foreign countries and other information, a number of different phones and strange travel records. All these things are true, correct, Ken?
Well, he did have foreign encrypted apps, which I wouldn't read too much into that. Like Proton Mail is a foreign encrypted app that I have, but that's kind of just standard service. But we haven't gotten any information from even Trump's FBI, which is odd. The transparency organization Judicial Watch filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit about a year ago for records on Thomas Crooks. We've learned that the FBI has over 75,000 records, and they've just started making monthly disclosures, I think in February, in response to this lawsuit. But they're producing about a couple dozen pages a month, and we've gotten about 200 pages in total. So at that rate, we'll all long be dead before the entire record cache is produced, which is pretty egregious.
I mean, this guy came in, he flew a drone over the area. He was on location for an extended period of time. He was on a roof, clear line of sight. All of these things are red flags. I mean, in this day and age, when this president probably faces more assassination threats than maybe any in my lifetime, and yet the Secret Service, according to you, basically is not terribly concerned and did not act with swiftness or certainty. Right or wrong?
And you're exactly right. And unfortunately, some of the agents involved in this incident have since received promotions. So even if you don't want to be conspiratorial and say it was just a series of, I would argue, criminally negligent errors, you've almost got built-in incentives for failure here. The Secret Service now has a bigger budget, more agents, more power. And yet some of the fundamental issues haven't really been addressed.
So what are the things we missed? What did we miss? What are the things that you're looking at, Ken, that you say, look, we need to focus on this area, this area, this area? Obviously, the Freedom of Information Act by Judicial Watch could be very telling. But what are the questions outstanding that you're like, we need to know what happened with this part of the investigation or this part of the attempt on the president's life?
Well, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier with the Secret Service sniper not responding, and it was actually a local cop on the ground. It actually took 15 whole seconds for the Secret Service sniper to return fire. And then we also have footage of him looking through the scope 7 seconds before the shooting started, which, I'd like to give the guy a benefit of the doubt, maybe that he had a hard time seeing the sniper or a hard time seeing the assassin. But we've got congressional transcripts where he's kind of caught lying about it, frankly. He initially says that he didn't see Thomas Crooks until after Crooks had fired 8 shots. But then a congressional staffer later obtained his own notes where immediately after the incident, he writes down that he saw Crooks crawling into place with an AR 15 before the shooting started. The sniper insists that his own notes are inaccurate, and in fact, 2 months later, he remembers it differently, where he didn't see Crooks until Crooks had gotten off 8 shots. I don't know the significance of this. It could be that he's just lying and covering his own behind because Trump thinks he's a hero, or it could be something more nefarious where he was actually told to stand down and let Crooks get off a shot. But any way you slice it, this is a major scandal because he's lying to Congress. Another major thing that is in my book, The Trump Assassination Plots, What the Investigations Miss and Why It Matters, you referenced the cremation of Thomas Crooks's body, and I obtained Crooks's toxicology report, which shows that the medical examiner obtained about 8 specimens from his body, hair, blood, eye bile, urine, things like that. And some of these specimens were either never tested or omitted from the report, which would arguably show use of psychotropic drugs or other things like that. The report only said that he wasn't on drugs of abuse, like heroin, meth, and serious drugs. But of course, with things like mass shootings and school shootings, the question always is about psychotropic drugs, which seems to have been omitted. So, I could go on, but these are just a couple things that are egregiously not even addressed by the FBI or the Secret Service.
Just seems to me, and you point out today is the 2-year anniversary. What strikes me is just a lack of curiosity by too many people, just a general lack of curiosity, Ken. And I think that strikes a lot of people as, well, odd. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson recently said that Trump himself shut down his own investigation, which prompted kind of a scathing response from former FBI Director Dan Bongino, who said, "Oh, no, Tucker's a liar." So I went back and looked at the timeline of events, and it turns out that Dan Bongino took office March 17th, 2025. And it was like 10 days later that Trump said that he had been briefed by Bongino, Kash Patel, and, he was told Crooks acted alone and there's nothing really to see here. And that tells you that Bongino never actually investigated the case himself. It's almost like they're relying on the Biden FBI's findings. Trump is
I guess we need to
expressed
keep
a little
digging.
bit of a yeah,
We need to keep digging. Ken, I got to leave it there, my friend. Thank you for being here. The book, The Trump Assassination Plots, What the Investigation Missed and Why It Matters. Ken, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I'll take a break and be right back. This is Daybreak Live from Washington, D.C. Well, believe it or not, football season. Practice is going to start in what, a month? Maybe less for some places. Practice starts in August. And for my next guest, that's something that he pays attention to. That and anything that can cause a concussion. Concussions can be debilitating. Just one concussion can create big long-term problems in your life, depending on the severity of the concussion. If you get more than one, it gets worse. Dr. Michael Hutchinson invented the NeuroGuard mouth guard. If you use this mouth guard, you'll reduce the chance of concussion by over 99%. Think about that. Whether you're playing soccer, football, girls basketball, whatever it might be, wearing the NeuroGuard Plus reduces your chance of getting a concussion by more than 99%. It was certified by Michigan State University and Wayne State University. Dr. Hutchinson is with me this morning. Doctor, nice to see you.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see you, sir. You've spent years developing this, patenting this device, and why the whole world doesn't use it is beyond me, because when it comes to preventing concussions, which are debilitating, I mean, just one concussion, like I said, it can change somebody's life, and not in a good way, right?
Absolutely, and it'd be one time, and that's all you need to suffer from the effects of concussion all your life. But yeah, I think now it's starting to grow and become more accepted. One of the monumental things since we talked is that traditionally we've always worn a mouth guard on the upper arch. That was because 86 years ago, the American Dental Association put it on the upper arch because they didn't have any face masks. So they thought, well, if you ran into a wall, your upper arch would hit first. So let's protect that. And that's still hanging around 86 years later. But the National Federation of State High School Associations just approved NeuroGuard as a viable mouth guard to wear. And so it's just really taken off now because there was that barrier of an upper arch.
Well, that's big news. Congratulations. You've finally broken through the old guard, if you will, to get it out there. So explain how it works and how it dissipates the energy that would otherwise end up causing a concussion.
Well, the lower jaw is the movable part of the skull, and it can move in any infinite number of directions. And all of us have something called physiologic jaw position, where our lower jaw likes to be moved into a very passive rest position. But if our teeth lock us in that position, then there's a disruption of nerve information to your muscles, and it puts that ball and socket in a bad position, either front or back, to direct the force of concussion to the brain. But if you can put that ball right in the center of the socket, it'll dissipate the forces away from your brain and reduce the impact of concussions down to, like you said, 99%. Which leads me to a study that was just published by Al Pierce, a concussion researcher in Australia, where he did something that we can't do in the United States, and that is shoot soccer balls at people's head and see what happens. And apparently in Australia you can do that. But he showed a drastic reduction in the forces of concussion, especially on the side of the head. So this is another big discovery that just adds to the credibility of NeuroGuard Plus and physiologic jaw position.
I know you've studied concussions and what happens to people over time. One bad concussion has bad results for a person's income levels over their lifetime. You have more than one, and it can become devastating over time. I mean, it really hinders people, doesn't it?
Well, every family's been touched by a concussion, either directly or indirectly. And we just got word that a Dallas Cowboy committed suicide because he had first stage CTE from many multiple concussions. Just another person that knew he wasn't feeling right. He wasn't treating his family. He wasn't treating people right, and donated his brain to the research, and helps us understand that it's a real thing, and it doesn't take many concussions. Subconcussive hits can add up, and your brain is always injured and not very easily repaired.
Yeah, not easily prepared. And just to be clear, we talk about football. I mean, that's the obvious one, hard hitting, but we've been watching the World Cup. we see these people collide with each other, right? Volleyball, women's basketball is one of the leading causes of concussion for young women in this country, isn't it?
Yeah, believe it or not, cheerleading is right up there. And
Really?
I'm gonna venture to say that nobody wears a mouth guard doing cheerleading, and that's one of the top concussion sports for women.
Yeah. Well, these are remarkable studies, and I tip my hat to you because you have been dedicated to this product for years. You got the patents, you did the research, you look at the studies, but you said this entrenched 86-year-old mouth guard that it protects your teeth from getting broken, but does it stop concussions? No. So congratulations on your success thus far. I'll give you the last word. Tell folks how important it is to avoid concussions for their kids, their grandkids, and themselves.
Well, it disrupts everything. We really don't know how to treat them. We don't know how to really prevent them except for not playing. And so when your child gets a concussion, of course, you go through the protocol. They can't play for 2 weeks. Sometimes it's very severe, such that their personality changes, the way they act, the mood, everything changes to and oftentimes permanent. And I know of several cases that are like that. It's
Yeah.
just it's an injury that just hangs around and affects the rest of your life.
And it's avoidable. That's the takeaway here. Dr. Hutchinson, always nice to see you, my friend. Thank you for the update and the studies. And again, congratulations.
Thanks, Dave.
Greatly appreciate it. Look, if you want to know more about this product, which my son has worn for years, no concussion, go to NeuroGuardPlus.com, save 10% with the promo code Gruber. NeuroGuardPlus.com, promo code Gruber, you'll save 10% and you'll have peace of mind. Keep your head in the game. Have a mouth guard that prevents brain injury. I'll be back after this on Daybreak. I want to share something with you that my good friend John Solomon published today on Just the News. Evidence mounts of non citizens reaching voter rolls, casting ballots, as the Department of Justice speeds a crackdown. You know, for a long time there, those in the left would say, well, there aren't any non citizens voting. And then it's, well, there's not enough non citizens voting to affect the outcome. The numbers are too small. We just saw an election for a mayor, I believe it might have been in Iowa. 2 votes was the difference. 2 votes. You get 3 non citizens voting, there's your election. Here's a little bit of the article because I think it's fascinating. A small town, Kansas mayor born in Mexico, a Filipino senior citizen living in Hawaii, 2 Pakistani men residing in New Jersey, an Aussie in Louisiana, Chinese students at the University of Michigan. They all have one thing in common. They've all been charged and convicted with illegally voting in U.S. federal elections. The Trump Justice Department has secured about 24 non-citizen voting arrests. About 100 more cases are on the way right now. It's an incredible boom for something that was almost unheard of before. Non-citizens voting, all 50 states, sent notices this month that election officials can and will be prosecuted if they allow non-citizens to vote. It isn't just bad policy to let non-citizens vote in federal elections. It is a crime. And this Department of Justice will intend to prosecute that crime if these election officials, having been informed that they are non-citizens of the voter rolls, knowingly allow these people to vote. If you knowingly allow a non-citizen to vote in your election, in your state, in your county, in your municipality, you're going to be held accountable. And it's about time. And this is why the Save America Act is so important. Have ID, prove that you have the legal right to vote because you're a legal United States citizen. Citizenship should mean something in America. It does to me, and it should to you. And it should to all people and all citizens, not just those on the right. Stop playing games with elections. Make them honest. Have integrity. I'll take a break and be back. Another hour of Daybreak live from Washington, D.C. coming next.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome back to it live from Washington, D.C., a special edition of Daybreak. We'll be here all week. We'll tell you more about that. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, the race to replace Senator Lindsey Graham after his sudden death late on Saturday night is in full swing now. We'll see what the governor of South Carolina decides. Number two, the war on Iran has ratcheted up. The Americans hitting a couple of hundred targets over the last 72 hours, making it clear to Iran, you can run, but you cannot hide. And number three, of course, we bring in Ivy because she's still in the home office. I got shipped off to the swamp, and Ivy's keeping things at home in good shape. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
So here I am. It's very hot. Very hot, yeah. It's on your mind.
Hot here in Michigan as well. So just, I think, hot all around the country. But I would be remiss if I didn't say something about Lindsey Graham off the top here. Very unexpected, obviously, from everyone. What are your thoughts on what's next in terms of filling his seat? Of course, you know, his family and friends mourning the unexpected loss. And I was actually listening a little bit this morning on some reporting that one of his most biggest moments of his career was supporting Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh, it was.
And so I don't know if you've talked about that at all, but I do remember just the harsh, when he was going through his, with the senators and whatnot, when they go through that process of getting selected.
Yeah, during the confirmation hearings, he went after the Democrats in a harsh way.
Yeah.
Because they were pulling out all these, Dr. Ford and all of this nonsense and basically going to his high school yearbook. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And of which they had no evidence. And Lindsey Graham finally just torched him on it. It was, and we'll play that a little bit later this hour.
Turned the tides of the whole hearing.
It did.
So one of the most memorable moments that I've heard of him thus far.
Yeah.
But at the end of the last hour, you were talking about, the evidence is mounting that non-citizens are actually reaching voter rolls.
Of course they are.
And we kind of knew this, but Just the News with John Solomon released this yesterday, saying that the DOJ is saying that tens of thousands of non-citizens have been identified on voter rolls, and that the DOJ is reviewing the reviews of state voter rolls have uncovered tens of thousands of non-citizens who were registered in positions where they could vote, along with hundreds of thousands of outdated registrations belonging to deceased or relocated voters. The criminal warnings were sent to all 50 states that, listen, guys, if you are allowing non-citizens to vote, we're going to criminally prosecute you. And the broader voter cleanup is underway. But even in our state of Michigan here, the Secretary of State has said, I'm going to remove all of these dead citizens and all of these, people who have moved, but nothing has actually quite happened yet.
She hasn't done it. And what's terrible about this is she's running for governor.
Right, exactly.
She's running for governor and refusing. The people of Michigan, like a lot of places, voted, a couple of years ago to require that voter rolls be cleaned up and in a timely fashion.
Right.
She's ignored all those deadlines.
Yeah.
She's just ignored the deadlines. The voter rolls are not cleaned up.
Yeah, and who gets to determine, when she doesn't do that? Is there any accountability that happens? Who's going to...
No, here's the point. You make a great point, and let me share this with the folks. When they mailed out all the mass applications for mail-in ballots, that was not legal to do in Michigan, but there was no penalty for it. So before the 2020 election, and I've always said that those mass mail-in ballots were a huge problem. I still believe that. I don't know what was a bigger problem, the ballots or the machines. Right. Doesn't matter. The ballots were a problem. She mailed them out, but she knew it was unlawful.
Well, maybe that's the new warning will get these secretaries of state moving on cleaning up the voter rolls, because if there is some
We'll see.
prosecution that is going to come from that, maybe actually we'll get it cleaned up. But something else that actually struck me, and we were talking in the break, you didn't think this is very surprising, but the Democratic candidate in Texas, James Tallarico, is crushing Ken Paxton in fundraising. James Tallarico announced he raised more than $30 million during his second quarter, whereas Ken Paxton raised only $9 million. I just find this to be not necessarily surprising, because there's
It's
probably a
not,
lot of
though.
outside actors coming in and giving him
That's
money
what it is.
outside of Texas. But even
When
so,
Beto O'Rourke, when Beto O'Rourke ran against Ted
Yeah.
Cruz last time around, and the Democrats said, "Oh, we can beat Ted Cruz," the money just pours in. The money just pours in, and that's why people say there's too much money in politics. It's not
Right.
Texans giving James Tallarico money, right? It is, well, I mean, some, but the vast majority of money comes from the city I'm sitting in, Washington, D.C., or from other donors all over the country who
right.
have this belief that they can win a Senate seat in Texas. I don't
Well, it's no
believe they
different
can.
than Kamala Harris, right? She had some pretty big numbers, but just couldn't.
Huge.
It didn't really matter, right? So it doesn't matter that
Huge
they're
numbers.
raising, a tremendous amount of money. It doesn't mean that they're going to win the election. I find it hard to believe that he would win there, but it is still frightening that even he's even a candidate that could possibly
Well, he's
win.
a guy. Well, I suppose that's why you play the games, right? The underdogs win sometimes. I don't see that happening in Texas, even with Ken Paxton, who, by many estimates, is a bit of a flawed candidate, to say the least. He's had his problems. People know that. But they were done with John Cornyn.
Yeah.
John Cornyn was too squishy, too much in the middle, too moderate, if you will. People want action, action, action. And that's something else you and I have talked about recently. The
Yeah.
lack of urgency.
Right. We're
in
coming up to the
Washington.
midterms, and it seems like everyone's dragging their feet. It's like, can we get some stuff passed? Like, where is
Yeah.
the Save America Act? Why aren't we moving on that? It does seem to me that there needs to be a much higher sense of urgency there, and there just isn't.
There's none.
It's
We need
unfortunate.
action now. We need people to get things done. The Save America Act, which is one of the sad things about losing Lindsey Graham. Again, I was not a huge Lindsey Graham fan on a number of items, but on that I was. And he had just told the president they had a path forward to get it put together. And now he's not with us. So I hope
Right.
that Governor McMaster there in South Carolina acts with some urgency to make sure that the country is protected. I mean, you've got Mitch McConnell, who's hospitalized and releases some goofy picture. That's all we get from him. No plan for him to come back. Here's an idea for Mitch McConnell. Resign your position before the 3rd of August so the state of
Right.
Kentucky can replace you. You're 84 years old. You're frail. You're not representing your constituents. And
Steve, is
you
there
know.
not some rule that says that if you are, incompetent, or if you're medically unable to serve, that you have to step down? Is there some sort of
apparently not. They let Joe Biden work, whatever that was, and they let
right?
Mitch McConnell work, whatever that is, from a hospital bed. But it was weird in the hospital picture. He had no IVs. He wasn't hooked up to anything. It's just like,
Interesting.
anyhow, we'll keep an eye on that. I'm glad you are staying home and looking after things there. I'll be here for the week, as you know. Love
Yep. Love you.
you. And we'll talk to her more a little bit later in the program, of course. Mitch McConnell, just resign. Do us all a favor, please. I'll be right back. Things I see on social media say, is this true? Usually it says, no, it's just bogus. It's made up. It's a deep fake video. It's whatever. A lot of Wild West going on out there, but the Trump administration has now given OpenAI the green light for a broad rollout of its new GPT 5.6 model. Comes after weeks of additional testing. What's weird is that, others got the red light, some got the green light. We don't know what qualifies or disqualifies an AI company to do work with the administration or the government, right? Who's in, who's out, and why? Nobody seems to know. Teresa Payton is a former White House CIO. She joins me now. Teresa, good morning.
Good morning. I hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing well. I am here in the nation's capital, and a lot of questions here. What makes it okay for the Trump administration to greenlight OpenAI? But they were red flagged before. Others have been red flagged. What are the rules? Do we know?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest problem. To use the World Cup analogy, we all need to know what the rule book is and what puts a company in the penalty box and what do you have to do to get out of the penalty box, because businesses can't run their companies not knowing whether or not a tool is going to suddenly be in the penalty box and unavailable to their operations. It's not fair to the companies themselves. And then you also have China saying, run into my open arms. I've got free open weight models that you can use. So it's a real challenge right now, but I understand why we're doing it. National security is very important.
All right. So tell me the applications we're talking about here, Teresa. When you bring in an OpenAI, Anthropic got the red light, OpenAI got a red light, and then a green light. What kind of applications are we talking about here? Where does it apply in this administration or across the government?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great question. What we've seen in the past is if you have an American company creating, some type of a product, and there's concerns about sort of foreign advancements happening if they were able to get access to the products. You've seen where products in the past have been banned. Look at chip bans on computer chips where it says you can't directly sell your chips to China or Russia or North Korea. So different precedents like that are set. But this is slightly unprecedented because in this case, and people may be thinking to themselves, what's the big deal? Like if I'm using ChatGPT, why would something like that be banned? This is the more advanced models. These are the frontier models, the models that have a little bit more logic power, a little bit more reasoning power. And, some of the concerns that have been raised is that these models in the wrong person's hands could be used to create weapons, military-grade weapons, could be used to create attacks on systems, on enterprises that we haven't seen before. So far, it's been the most advanced model of OpenAI and Anthropic. Anthropic got the green light to release it. OpenAI, I think, is very close to getting the green light to releasing theirs. But the question is, who's next? Is it going to be Google's Gemini? Is it going to be Microsoft? Who's next? And what are the rules to the test? Because I think we're all used to having rules to the test, and we don't really know what they are right now.
Who's in, who's out, and why? These seem like pretty simple questions, Teresa, that I think people would like to know. Look, AI is everywhere 24 hours a day now, whether it's in our car, looking at how we're driving, in our phone, listening to what we say, in our televisions, in our computers, everywhere. And it has often happens. Technology is moving far faster than Congress, which moves at the express speed of a tired snail oftentimes, right? So how do we catch up? How do we make sure that the regulations, the rules, that people understand the game they're playing? At least the citizens understand the game that's being played. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be. And, what I would encourage at least the American big tech companies that have these advanced frontier AI models that are pursuing, agentic AI, what I would encourage them to do is there's no competition in saying we're going to all follow a certain ethical framework. And the ethical framework will have safeguards that somebody cannot build a weapon to be used against mankind, that somebody will not be able to build some type of cyber attack that would impact mankind, will be ethical in our practices, will be transparent in how the models work. It would really help if big tech, instead of waiting for the Hill to figure out what this looks like, to actually come forward and say, we've met, this is the model, this is not competitive advantage, this is just the right thing to do. And that would go a long way. But if we're all waiting for the Hill to pass some law, I think be careful what we wish for. We may not like it once it finally gets passed.
Yeah, here's the problem about ethical guidelines and restrictions. We may follow them here in the United States or in Western civilization, but it will not be followed in China or Russia or elsewhere. Look, autonomous weapons are already out there. The drones are the big new thing. They're cheap, they're effective, and they're run by AI. I mean, AI on the battlefield, everything ever invented by mankind. Any great advancement has always been turned into a weapon of war, every single time. I don't think it'll be any different this time. Last word to you.
Yeah, I think the main thing is each of us, and I appreciate you having me on the show today to discuss this, we need to ask questions, and we need to not settle for anything less than how are these technology tools going to be designed in such a way that it will support human flourishing. And even if other countries aren't doing the right thing, how can we ensure that we are?
Fair point. Teresa Payton, former White House CIO, AI, OpenAI, greenlit. We still don't know why. We'll keep asking questions, Teresa. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Greatly appreciate it. I'm just going to go on the record. I don't trust it. Not one little bit. I don't trust it at all. Flock cameras and cameras inside your car and cameras on every street corner and LPRs and everything else. I don't trust it. Not one little bit. Do you? Send me an email, stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. Send me an email, tell me your thoughts, and I'll be right back. All right, I want to get ahead of the conspiracy theorists out there with Lindsey Graham. Yes, he just returned from Ukraine. Yes, it seems like the timing is, well, a bit off, to say the least. I agree with you on that. But the fact of the matter is, arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease is real. The aorta begins to peel. And when it peels, it ruptures. When it ruptures, blood is cut off. The aorta is the largest artery in your body, and when it ruptures, well, there's not much most doctors can do. That's a fact. An aortic dissection is a life-threatening medical emergency when the tear develops in the inner layer of the aorta, the body's largest artery. It occurs when the layers of the aorta come apart and the inner one tears. Blood rushes through the tear, causes the layers of the aortic wall to separate, and there's not much that can be done. And that's why Lindsey Graham died at the age of 71. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that can be done at that point, and the symptoms are often overlooked. If you're tired of thin, lifeless hair, if you cringe every time you see another clump in the shower drain, then your hair probably needs more protein, just like our muscles lose protein as we age and atrophy. Our hair loses protein as well, leading to thin, dry, and brittle strands. That's where Hydrolift volumizing shampoo by Purins comes in. Hydrolift contains wheat protein that strengthens your hair follicles from deep within. This transforms thin and lifeless hair into fuller, more resilient locks. It also contains Betaine from sugar beets, which draws water into your strands, making your hair feel silky soft. Right now, you can try Hydrolift Volumizing Shampoo risk-free and save 35% with the discount code DAYBREAK. Just go to Purance.com to shop and save. By the way, Purance has other great products too if you're looking to rejuvenate your skin, hair, or nail. These are USDA certified organic, so they're great for your body and the environment. Again, you can save 35% on your entire order with the discount code DAYBREAK. Just go to Purance.com to shop and save. Coming up after the break, the surging socialists in America, communists really. They're promising free stuff to everyone. Now, to me, that's buying votes, which is illegal. But they slide through this loophole, if you will. Promise your money to the guys down the street or anybody else. Free stuff for everybody. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we'll discuss it coming up right here. All right. The Democratic Socialists of America. They're not democratic at all. They use that word as camouflage. And I want to give you another example. This is Abdul El Sayed. He is the leading candidate to be the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate seat that's being vacated in Michigan. Listen to what he says.
I think you need to guarantee health care for everyone, cradle to grave, without premium, copay, deductible. That's how. That's Medicare for all. And I just want you to imagine, right, that card that you get via your private health insurer, that card sits in your back pocket. You pay a ton of money for it, and it goes away if you lose your job. Now, imagine you had one right there that you got the day you were born that doesn't expire until you expire, God willing, after a long, healthy life at 120 years old in your sleep. You don't lose it if you turn 26. You don't lose it if you turn 65. You don't lose it if you get married, get divorced. It doesn't matter. It's there for you. There's no network, and there's no cost out of pocket. That's the security people need and deserve. We could do.
No cost out of pocket. Of course not. It's all free. It's magical. Alvin Louie is joining me, the president of Courage is a Habit. Alvin, welcome back to the program. It's
Steve,
free
it's always a
stuff for
pleasure to
everyone,
see you.
Alvin.
Always
Yeah,
free. It's
free
just
stuff for
magical. It just keeps
everybody.
falling from the sky. It just falls from the sky, you know.
Yeah.
Everything's free. Easy.
You say these folks, and they call themselves democratic socialists. They're not democratic at all. They're just socialists, which are basically communists. And it's takeover. And look, I've seen their posts. They don't just want to give you free stuff. They want to get rid of the Constitution, tear down America, rebuild it in the image of Mao and Stalin, I guess. It truly is nuts, isn't it?
It really is. The free stuff is just an entry bait. That's the doorbuster. You know, that's the free TV at Walmart for, you know, $50. Here's the sentence that they don't say. In order for stuff to be free for you, they have to take it from somebody, and that somebody is 90% of other people that work, that toil, that sacrifice, that have delayed gratification. What they really mean, and this is the thing that I had wrote the article on, is that they want to take it from your children. They want to be sure that there is no such thing as generational wealth. This is why they're always hitting the billionaires and the millionaires and all those kind of things, because they're very esoteric, right? Like, we're going to tax billionaires. But what I talk about when I say we're generational wealth, I mean just normal people that wants to leave a little something for their children so that their children starts off on second base and not in a dugout. And the democratic socialists or the socialists, the communists in schools make that a shameful thing. And my whole push here at Courage is a Habit, especially through education, is to make that a proud thing and say, look, if my parents love me enough to think about my future, if your parents didn't do that for you, that's fine. Make sure you do that for your kids, but don't take it from mine.
Yeah, it's the death tax is what you're referring to here. Inheritance tax. The government coming around and taking another big bite out of whatever. Your dollar was taxed when it was earned. It was taxed when it was invested. It was taxed every step of the way. And then when you die, some of these places want half your money or more. I mean, it's outrageous. Right. And this is how you destroy family farms, small businesses, and like you said, generational wealth. Just destroy it and make everybody equally miserable, Alvin. That's the way I take it.
It is. Even the capital gains. Even capital gains when you're trying to, let's say, sell a rental property or something. I mean, those are all absolutely ridiculous, because it makes it so that it's harder for a family to get any kind of traction. And, you know, it's destroying things is what they do. See, the thing about these communists, this is why they always attack the young. This is why that in government K through 12, they make sure they can't even read when they graduate high school, because if you can't read, you can't learn. And if you can't learn, you can't earn. And when you can't earn, free stuff sounds pretty darn good. And these young communists, these socialists, when they're walking around with their flags and screaming, they think that when socialism comes in, that everybody gets a nice house, that everybody gets to eat at the nice steakhouse. But if they get their wish tomorrow, nobody has a nice house. Nobody gets to eat at the steakhouse except the people that are in charge, which is the Mao level and the Stalin level.
Well, you mean like Mamdani, who just gave himself a giant raise as mayor of New York, along with the city council members. Huge raises for everybody. Money for the city is broke. It's billions of dollars. They just took a bailout from Albany. And as soon as they got the $12 billion from Albany, New York City gave raises to the mayor and the city council. It's outrageous. But this is how they conduct themselves. The people that flourish are those running the system, not those living in misery in the system, right?
In the 78 degrees, you can't turn up the AC. That's the glimpse, and that's just, you know, that's the thing. You know, you're not. Nobody's sitting in air conditioned office except, you know, the Mamdani and his family, right, and his close confidants. You're sitting at 78 degrees. You're sitting at 88 degrees, and then eventually there'll be no AC. That's the point. And so socialists really, I think what we have to start referring to them is that this is the movement of losers, of the jealous, and the lazy. That's really what it is. And I think I know in polite company these days, especially over the last 20 years of politically correct, we don't use those words anymore. But those words are descriptors of people's habits and of their personality and their character. So socialism really is the movement of the lazy, the envy, and the losers. And if you look at it that way and you hear the way they talk, that makes complete sense because only losers talk the way they talk. It's always about someone else. It's always someone else's fault. It's always taking from someone else. And for young people out there that are holding their signs screaming, if you spent that time working on your own goals and dreams, you would be far better off in life than the government taking from someone else, because when the government takes from someone else, they will always take from you too. And history always shows us that's exactly how it goes.
Basically, you say democratic socialists who failed at life are weaponizing envy. It's envy, coveting somebody else's stuff and saying, well, I got cheated. It wasn't fair. It's racism. It's slavery. It's 1,000 things, right? But it's never my fault.
Well, here's the funny thing about getting cheated on. They never got cheated because they didn't even get started. And that's what government K through 12 does to children. They teach them at a very early stage that's why they use the words, things like you deserve, human rights. So it's one thing if they actually built something and then someone cheated them out of something, which is ironically what they're trying to do to the rest of us that actually work,
Absolutely true.
So these kids, they didn't get cheated out of anything. They just were taught very early on that the fact that you exist, the fact that you're breathing air, you deserve all these things because it's human rights. Human rights is one of the most loaded terms.
You know what? That is the Bernie Sanders talking point. Healthcare is a human right. A house is a human right. And the list just goes on and on and on. And that's how they play it. And if you don't agree with that, well, then you're a bigot or you're a far right radical activist or whatever it might be. Alvin, I got to leave it there for today. But I want to point out to the folks here, Alvin is the president of Courage as a Habit. He was a guest on the Forgotten America podcast with me and Ivy, and you can go check that out on YouTube anytime you want. Subscribe for free and listen to a long conversation with Alvin, who's a very smart, very common sense kind of guy that you will enjoy. Alvin, really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, my friend. Again, go to YouTube. You can become a subscriber for free. It's Steve Gruber. You'll enjoy it. That and so many other episodes. Socialists. They have envy. But like he said, they never got started. They just sat and complained. Well, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Why don't you go to work? Just throwing it out there. I'll be back after this with a deeper dive into that very thing. Well, I just used AI. I saw something pop up on social media, and I'm going to share it with you now. I'll get Anthony to pull this picture for us a little bit, but there was a picture released yesterday of Mitch McConnell in the hospital with Elaine Chao, his wife, saying he's doing fine, he's improving. And on the internet, numerous outlets saying it is identical to a picture from 2023. So I went to social media, to AI. Is this true? It is. The X post is real. Mitch McConnell's office in the July 2026 health update is not new. It is the exact same image from his 2023 recovery period. So why would you put out a picture that's 3 years old? Side-by-side comparisons of two photos, Mitch McConnell and his wife Elaine Chao, notes they're identical. Same red shirt, pose, expressions, background, blue chair, newspaper, lighting, everything. References an early analysis concluding they're the same 2023 photo, questions the lack of fresh proof of life imagery. This matches independent verification. The released photo shows McConnell smiling in a rehab-style chair next to Elaine Chao. Reverse image searches and multiple reports confirm the July 2026 photo is identical to the one released in 2023 after McConnell earlier fell and got a concussion. No meaningful differences exist in clothing, pose, expressions, background, or detail. McConnell's team shared the statement and photo via media and social channels, including Facebook, as a response to questions about his prolonged absence from the United States Senate. The X post is authentic and accurately calls out the reused 2023 photo. So I ask again now with more urgency, where is Mitch McConnell? And do these people working in his office not realize that social media and the internet is forever? Didn't take very long to debunk this. Not very long at all. And if they're releasing photos from 2023, where is Mitch McConnell today? Here's what I strongly suggest. Mitch McConnell is 84 years old. He is in frail condition at best. Some online posters say that the situation is far worse. That I don't know about. I only tell you what I know. But what I do know is that he went into the hospital June the 14th. It's been a month. And there's been no meaningful update on his health. And now we know no meaningful photographs either. They're reusing photographs that are 3 years old. If Mitch McConnell resigns his position or leaves his position as the senator for the state of Kentucky prior to August 3rd, there can be a special election in Kentucky to replace him immediately, which should happen. It's no different than the woman that was a Republican, was it 2 years ago? Member of Congress. Her name eludes me at the moment. Doesn't matter. The point is this. Her congressional staff said she's fine. She's just not here today. She's not feeling well. She's recovering, so on and so forth. She was discovered, and you can look this up. She was discovered in a old folks' home in Houston. She'd been there for months because she had dementia. She later died. These people that are on staff for these members of Congress or senators or whomever do whatever they can to hang on to that power, to their position, to the detriment of you and me. It's absolutely inexcusable. If Mitch McConnell is incapacitated, which, why would you release an image from 3 years ago if he's not incapacitated? If these people are incapacitated, they need to be removed. They need to resign. They need to go to pasture, if you will. How about that? This is absolutely outrageous. Something needs to be done. And now the urgency is even higher. What is the condition of Mitch McConnell? Why would this illusion of him being in power remain? The Jeffrey says maybe it's just his favorite shirt and he likes to pose that way. Well, Jeffrey, you might be right, but you're not. Fact of the matter is, Mitch McConnell is not apparently well enough to have a new picture taken. Mitch McConnell is not well enough to have a new picture taken. We need to know where he is, when he plans to come back, if ever. The Save America Act is hanging in the balance. We've lost Lindsey Graham, who was spearheading the Save America Act, and Mitch McConnell was opposed to it. Maybe we can get a senator from Kentucky that would support what the American people support. It's a 90% issue. And with Mitch McConnell's office obviously trying to deceive us based on, comparing these photos side by side, we need answers, and we need them now. Summer fun means getting out and being active after sitting on the couch and lazing around all year. Now it's time to get out. Make sure your body's prepared for the activities summer demands. Patriots Relief CBD can assist in alleviating any aches and pains you get from riding the bike, going swimming, running up a mountain, whatever it might be. Just call my friend Tim and his family at 877-230-1776 or visit patriotsrelief.com. Use the promo code Gruber for 40% off and free shipping when you order at patriotsrelief.com or call 877-230-1776. Use the promo code Gruber at checkout. Don't let the pain slow you down. Get out there, have fun, enjoy your summer, ride that bike, go for a walk, run the dogs, whatever it might be. patriotsrelief.com, promo code Gruber. Save 40% and get free shipping. Don't let the pain slow you down this summer. Patriots Relief CBD will help you get through it. I'll take a break and be back with sports from Brock after this. All right, time to check in with Brock Palmbush on sports. Here he is.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Yannick Sinner is the men's singles champion at Wimbledon for the second year in a row after dispatching French Open champ Alexander Zverev in 4 sets yesterday on center court. It's Sinner's 5th major title. In golf, Tom Kim won the PGA Tour's Scottish Open yesterday, shooting a final round 64 to beat Min Woo Lee by 2 shots to win the final lead-up tournament before the British Open, golf's final major of the year, which starts on Thursday morning. Heyran Roux won the LPGA's Amundi Evian Championship in France yesterday, beating Brooke Henderson in a playoff for the second straight major title. She won the Women's PGA Championship just last month. In baseball, it was the last day of play before the All-Star break. American League winners included Baltimore, Cleveland, and Seattle. National League winners included Philadelphia, the Chicago Cubs, and San Diego. And Ryan Blaney won the NASCAR Quaker State 400. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. All right, all eyes are on what's happening with Iran right now. We'll continue to have updates for you. The United States military pounding sites inside Iran again today, ratcheting up the offensive. One of the most important things that has happened in the last 72 hours was taking out a bridge in northeastern Iran that was the main artery, if you will, to ship oil out of the country by tanker truck to places like Russia and China. It was also the ingress point to bring in drones or missiles or other military equipment. That bridge gone now. I'm not sure why it wasn't taken out earlier, to be honest with you. Learning of that bridge and its critical connection to China and Russia, it would seem that would have been one of the first things taken out back in February, but has now been taken out. I don't know where this leads with Iran. It is a holy war for them. For us, it's just trying to bring somebody back into the League of Civilized Nations. I remain with the idea that we should finish the job. I'll talk more about it coming up, but we need to finish the job. Again, I'm live in Washington, D.C. I'll be here in Washington for the week. Some really big news could be breaking today and tomorrow. That's why I'm here, keeping an eye on it for you. And when I know more, I will share it right here on Daybreak.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, welcome to it as we kick off another brand new hour here of Daybreak. Glad to see you today. I'm coming to you live from Washington, D.C. I'll be here for the week shadowing the president. Big announcements coming this week. We'll tell you more about that over the next couple of days. And be right there front row for you. Front row to history. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, again, no proof of life for Mitch McConnell. Where is it? The photograph released is clearly a photograph release from 2023. Another fail by his staff to convince anybody that he's in good shape. Number two, the Iran war continues. The United States pounding sites today. And number three, the aftermath of the death of Senator Lindsey Graham. Died at the age of 71 from an aortic dissection. Unexpected, had just returned from Ukraine and died basically of a catastrophic aortic failure, if you will. Graham, not one of my favorites, but certainly an ally to President Trump on a lot of major issues, including the Save America Act. The Save America Act, which Graham had just told the president he had found a path forward to get the Save America Act signed into law, meaning voter ID, proof of citizenship. Senator Graham had his moments, and the one best remembered was when he was defending Brett Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearings before the United States Senate, when he dropped the gloves and went after the Democrats for smearing Brett Kavanaugh and dragging him through the mud in an attempt to destroy him. I'm sure you remember this as well. Listen.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it, because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
It was powerful. That was 2018. It changed the direction of the confirmation hearings. Republicans voted to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Democrats did not. He is on the nation's high court now until he retires or passes away. His confirmation saved by Lindsey Graham. The day before his death, Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine meeting with the president there, Volodymyr Zelensky, and said he thought he had found a way to end the war in Ukraine. This is the day before he died. Listen.
We've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support. It means it's going to become law. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war. There's some things we can do on the technology front to build on the lethality of Ukraine to protect itself from ballistic missile attack. If we did that, combined with creating tools to punish those countries that prop up Putin, that make money off this war, then I think we've got the best chance since I've been coming here in the last 5 years to get Putin to the peace table.
We may not ever know if Lindsey Graham had found that way through. Waiting on terms for his funeral now, of course, which I would hazard a guess will be held in South Carolina. Small town guy, Lindsey Graham. Grew up in the back room of a liquor store, if I'm not mistaken. Poor, from small town South Carolina. Grew to national prominence. Like him or hate him, he still lived an American dream. Growing up as a poor child and becoming an influential senator in the city of Washington for more than 20 years. Senator Mike Lee said this about Lindsey Graham following his death. Listen to this.
Look, Senator Graham's passing is a real loss. All of us who knew him, who worked with him, appreciated his sense of humor, his enthusiasm for life. And the man didn't do anything half-heartedly, and we will miss him. We're still coming to terms with the fact that he's gone.
Of course. Everyone is shocked this morning. We all learned very late last night, and I wonder how things change as a result of this. Lindsey Graham was trying to execute President Trump's agenda, as you have been as well. How do you think things change in the Senate without Lindsey Graham there?
Well, look, there will be a massive hole in the Senate, and in the size and shape of Lindsey Graham, it will impact everything. In the short term, we're down one senator. We're down to 52 Republicans instead of 53. There are plans of succession in place, of course, and I'm sure those will unfold in the coming days and weeks. Nonetheless, the impact of this can't be overstated.
You know, I'd like to get ahead of Candace Owens and some of the folks who I'm sure will have a conspiracy theory about the Egyptians or the Israelis or somebody killing the senator. Let's get ahead of that, shall we? Listen to this.
So President Trump here at the White House earlier today had ordered that all flags across the country be lowered to half-staff in support of the life of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Now, we also know that it was early this morning that the senator's team, their official office, releasing that he had died of what they are calling a brief and sudden illness. The FBI are at Senator Graham's residence, although there is no indication of foul play, according to the federal law enforcement. Earlier today, FBI Director Kash Patel said that the FBI would assist local authorities and make every resource available. So the Wall Street Journal reporting that emergency responders were dispatched to Graham's home last night and performed CPR on an individual suffering from cardiac arrest. 71-year-old Lindsey Graham was elected to the Senate more than 20 years ago. He was a loud voice in the Republican Party. He was also a close friend to Donald Trump. The two spoke just last night.
Yeah, he spoke to the president about 7 o'clock the night before. The president got a call at about 1 a.m. the following morning to tell him that Lindsey Graham had died. The race is on, of course, to fill his seat in South Carolina. There are 4 or 5 candidates, we are told, on the list. Governor McMaster will choose from that list, and hopefully he does it quickly to make sure there is not a vacancy on the Republican side of the United States Senate at a critical time in American history. I'll take a break and be right back. This is Daybreak. All right, it is election season. As you know, my next guest is one of the 3 Republicans remaining in the race to be the Republican nominee for governor in the state of Michigan, Mike Cox, former attorney general in Michigan, a 21-year prosecutor. He joins me now. Mike, good morning.
How you doing, sir? It's good seeing you, Steve.
I'm doing well. Nice to see you, sir. All right, so you just had a debate. It was colorful. I think it was a fair way to put it.
Spicy.
But you're right in the thick of things here. How do you feel about the race today, how it's shaping up?
I feel very good. I've won these things before, and over the next 3 weeks, people are starting to focus. And really, this is time for voter education, and people start to make the choices. We've really had up to 45% of the folks undecided in the third-party polling. And I think people are going to pay attention in the next 3 weeks, and they're going to figure out who they want. And I think ultimately Republicans are hungry for a winner. Republicans are hungry for someone who's willing to take it to the Democrats. And I checked the box on both those, Steve. So I feel very, very good.
When you look at the priorities for the state of Michigan, look, our spending in Michigan is frankly out of control.
Right.
Spending has gone from about $53 billion a year to somewhere in the mid $80 billion. That is more than Illinois by $30 billion, more than North Carolina, more than Pennsylvania, more than Georgia. North Carolina and Georgia are similar sized states, but Pennsylvania and Illinois are bigger states. They spend $30 billion less than we do annually. What are we spending our money on?
Brother, I have no idea, right? We've actually increased $30 billion from $56.8 billion to $86.6 billion. And if you think about that, Steve, that's 3,000 more per year for every single resident. So if you're in a family of 4, that means government is spending 12 grand more, and you're paying that extra price. It may be hidden in fees and things you don't always call taxes, but we're all paying that 12 grand more per family. And so when people talk about the cost of living, it's not just the fighting with the utilities, which I did and won. It's just not cracking down in big insurance companies like Blue Cross, which I did and won. And it's not going after drug pricing, which I went after Big Pharma and set up a drug cost website, MichiganDrugPrices.com, where people can comparison shop. It's about reducing the cost of government. That's a huge burden on working families, and it's something that's got to stop. And unfortunately, we had a Republican House that went along with it. They've slowed it down, but they need a governor. The governor makes a difference, and I think after the debate, we had so many people reaching out because folks, they understand that Republicans have been taking a beating. We've lost too many statewide races. Outside of Donald Trump, there's very few people who've actually beat Democrats in Michigan, and I'm one of them. And when when people come up to me on the street, a lot more on parades. Excuse me. I was in a Cherry Fest. I'm getting a little excited. I was in the Cherry Fest parade over the weekend, and people were, they were so proactive, coming across the street to say hello, getting out of the shade to say hello because they want a fighter. And one guy said it to me perfectly on the street. He said, can you imagine if John James is on the debate stage with Jocelyn Benson and he starts talking about government spending? And she's going to say, well, you're part of that Congress that's increased government spending $1.4 trillion over the last 4 years. And then it starts talking about corporate welfare. And Benson will turn and say, well, wait a second, you got $2 million and didn't create any jobs and didn't pay the money back. And then they'll start talking about EV mandates. And then she'll say, but you took EV mandate money from President Biden. And you can go on down the line. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is another really critical question for Michigan. We have net negative migration. People are leaving the state. But states all over America, South Carolina, Missouri, are all eliminating personal income tax. I think it's critical for Michigan to get back with an economic pulse that matters. What are your thoughts on the income tax in Michigan?
Well, Steve, you don't remember this, but on April 16th of 2025, almost a year and a half ago, I was on your show because I announced on tax day And I announced leading with eliminating the income tax, which I'd been talking about for the 5 months before that, before I formally announced. You're absolutely right. If we want to become a dynamic state again, we're going to have to join the 9 states that have eliminated the income tax. And it's not just Florida and Texas. It's Tennessee. It's New Hampshire. It's Montana. It's Wyoming. It's South Dakota. And those states are all different economies, but they are all booming. They're all booming. Why? Because freedom breeds prosperity. It's that simple. When people have a little more money in their pocket, they make better decisions on how to spend that. And on top of that, think about this. With people leaving, how do we keep young people here? Well, of course, we have to get them jobs. We have to fix education. But one way is if we allow them to be able to buy a house quicker here in Michigan. How do you do that? Eliminate the income tax. And so that young couple is 25, 30, 32, 38, they want to get that first house. They pull their money, the savings from the income tax, gets that nest in. 100%.
Let me ask you one more thing, Mike, before I run out of time here. And this is a real simple question. The primary isn't until August. We're one of the last states in America to hold a primary. Is that detrimental? I mean, you've still got 3 Republican candidates in the race here. If the primary happened earlier and we had settled on a candidate, it would seem to me you would have a better chance. Got about 30 seconds. Last word.
Those are the rules. When I'm governor, I'm going to push the move the primary up. But here's the reality: you have to win under the rules that we have. And
Fair point.
When I win the primary, I'm gonna spend 3 months going after Jocelyn Benson, educating the people of Michigan why the son of a working class guy, unlike her, unlike the other candidates on the Republican side, is the right guy to pull the lever for. Someone who's gonna be dynamic and fight for the people of Michigan each and every day.
Mike, I appreciate you being here. If you're interested, you can find out more at MikeCox2026.com. MikeCox2026.com. Thank you, sir. Good talking to you as always. You too.
Take care.
I'll take a break and be right back. This is Daybreak. All right, so I cannot believe how many people will just not admit they were wrong about the evidence against Tyler Robinson. To me, it's mind-numbing. Look, if I get something wrong here, I'll tell you. I'll say, look, I got this wrong. I don't mind. I think it creates more respect between me and my audience. If I'm willing to say, look, I got something wrong, then you understand that I'm human. But some of these podcasters, good Lord, how about some of the evidence? Gunshots heard at 12:23 on 9/10/25. The screwdriver found on the Losey Center roof. DNA found on the screwdriver with support of inclusion as Tyler Robinson is the major contributor and Lance Twiggs is the minor contributor. Sniper pad on the roof. UVU surveillance footage of the person on the roof showing activities at time of Charlie's murder consistent with the shooter as well as the person's subsequent flight with something in his hand. The shoe impressions of the northeast corner of the Losey Center. Scuffs near the northeast corner of the Losey Center corroborating the video. The medical examiner's conclusion that Charlie's cause and manner of death was homicide by a single gunshot wound. Bullet jacket fragment and 4 bullet lead fragments recovered during Charlie's autopsy. Jacket measured and consistent with a .30 caliber class bullet. UVU surveillance footage of 3 additional visits to campus by the same individual pictured at the time of the shooting wearing different clothing. visiting amphitheater where shooting occurred, as well as Losi Center roof. Video surveillance also establishes connection with a gray Dodge Challenger. Ring doorbell footage showing the gray Dodge Challenger parking near campus after midnight, 9/11/25. Video of the gray Dodge Challenger attempting to turn onto campus, 12:30 a.m., 9/11/25. Report of a police officer who contacted the gray Dodge Challenger at Campus Drive, 12:30, wrote down the license plate and later traced the vehicle through DMV to Tyler Robinson. Recovery of the 30-06 Mauser 98 wrapped in a black towel in a wooded area immediately across Campus Drive. Here's a good one. One engraved Remington 30-06 cartridge casing fired, recovered from inside the rifle. 3 more. Remember, Lance Twiggs said that Tyler was engraving bullets for a family hunting trip. Well, DNA with strong support for inclusion as Robinson is the major contributor. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And yet, some people just keep doubling down and doubling down on complete nonsense. Nonsense. Yes, I said it. Wake up. This is how it went down. I'll take a break and be back on Daybreak. Welcome back to it. The next interview here, I asked for. I said, go find Mark Meckler for me, please. And Sarah did, of course. Mark, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Mark is the president of Convention of States Action. And Mark, I think you finally got me full on. It took you a few years, but I think I'm with you. And the reason being is I see so many egregious things happening. So explain to folks, there is an Article 5 Convention of States. It's part of the Constitution. Tell the folks what you're doing and why it's so important.
Yeah, well, look, Washington, D.C. is out of control. We see they can't pass the Save America Act. 87% of people support voter ID. Simple things like you can't vote if you're not a citizen. People want a balanced budget. People want term limits. People don't believe in this birthright citizenship madness. But Congress is never going to fix any of those things. It's a hallucination to think they are. We have a chance to do that. Article 5 gives the states the rights to gather in a convention to propose amendments to the Constitution and then ratify those amendments. And that's an end run around Congress and the president, whatever. We don't have to worry about what the folks in Washington, D.C. want. We can impose on them limitations on their power.
So if I remember correctly, Mark, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it takes 34 states to agree to have a convention in the first place. But whatever happens in that convention, it takes 38 states to ratify an amendment. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. So the only things that are going to come out of convention are things that the vast majority of people agree upon. And everything I just discussed, by the way, the vast majority of Americans agree upon. They want term limits for Congress. They think Congress's spending is out of control. The vast majority of people think that this birthright citizenship case was insane and that we need to limit that stuff. And so we can get these things done, voter ID, we can get them done through a convention of states. It's just Congress has no incentive to do any of this stuff.
So, because I've had misinformation given to me, told that if you call a constitutional convention for an amendment, the only things you can discuss are the things that are on a to-do list, if you will, or a pre-qualified list. How many states have agreed to a constitutional convention at this point?
Yeah, so far 20 out of the necessary 34. And I think we're on the precipice right now of state number 21. That's North Carolina. Their House has already agreed. I think their Senate's about to. I think Ohio is very close. That'll be state number 22. So we're moving in on the target.
Can you get there? I mean, in all honesty, Mark, you've got, look, some of these blue states are going to say no, even though if they got to a convention of states, they'd love to just remove the Second Amendment with these blue states. They would just love to see that happen. And that's the fear that people have, you know, that something like that would come along and they would take things out of the First or Second Amendment or something else. Your thoughts?
Well, two things. Can we get there? Yeah, absolutely we can. There are some state legislatures that are going to need to flip, but we've got a couple of states right now that are split, Michigan and Pennsylvania. We're going to flip those things back. So I'm not worried about the path there. And as far as what you're describing as what was called the Runaway Convention, that was actually a fear invented by leftists. Literally came from Chief Justice Warren Burger, the guy that gave us Roe versus Wade. That fear was inserted into the American body politic to keep conservatives from calling a convention of states. You see, leftists have amended the Constitution repeatedly over the years, over the past 115 years, really, by using the Supreme Court to amend the Constitution, by inserting ridiculous interpretations, giving the federal government more power. They don't want us as conservatives to use the one tool we have to route around the federal government to limit the federal government's power. It can't run away. Steve, you mentioned it takes 34 states to agree in advance on the subject matter. So when people talk about, well, they'll talk about other things, how do you do that when the supermajority of states have already agreed in advance what the convention is limited to?
I agree. And so here's my question. What is the path forward? All right, you got Ohio, North Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That's still 24. You got to get to 34.
Oh, yeah.
What are your target states?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch more states that are on the precipice. Just to give you kind of a look into the near future, we're looking at Ohio, Idaho, Iowa, Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota. That's a whole bunch of states that are right there in front of us right now for the taking.
Well, I would think Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota would line up quickly, as so would Idaho, I would believe. All right, so now you're getting really close. What kind of states are going to take?
Yeah, I mean, I think the states that are on the margin, I would say, are states like Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, Maine, These are states that are gettable, but that are not in the red column right now.
Yeah, Nevada's doable. Michigan's doable. Maine, boy, that's gonna be a lift, Mark.
Oh, Maine, actually, I think Maine will come before Michigan and Pennsylvania. Like, we have
Really?
good traction in Maine. Yeah, Mainers are they're different folks. They're very independent. This is, look, well, if you and I might look at this as a partisan thing because we're conservatives, if you think all we're saying is the federal government should get out of our business, and Mainers in general tend to be very independent and think that way. The polling in Maine supports this very strongly.
That's interesting. When we call the convention of states, can we get rid of the 17th Amendment? Can we just put that at the top of the list for me personally? That's what.
Yeah, I want to, like, if I had one sort of magic wand, like I could wave it, that's the one I would get rid of. Just for folks that don't know what that is, it's where we directly elect the U.S. senators. They were supposed to be appointed by their state legislatures. This was the ultimate balance point of power, right?
Right. It was so the senators would be accountable to the state. And instead, they just go in there and stay for a lifetime, right? And they're not accountable to the state. And if we had the 17th Amendment today, the Republicans would have a majority, maybe a supermajority, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they would have, right now there are 29 states with both legislative houses controlled by Republicans, so we would have at least 29 senators. So we'd be in total control of the U.S. Senate. And more importantly, the senators originally, their main job was they were intended to say no to Congress, because everybody knew, the framers knew, that Congress would get out of control, would try to take more power. And so the Senate was there on behalf of the states to say, no, you can't take our power, cannot usurp our power. That stuff belongs to us. I say jokingly that the Senate was the easiest job in the United States government because all they needed to do was be able to say no.
Yeah, that's all they had to do was say no. We would have 58 Republican senators. If you have two houses or 29 states with full control, that's 58 Republicans and maybe more. And that's why I say that. Mark Meckler, I appreciate you coming on. Greatly appreciate seeing you here today. Thank you, sir. We'll talk more.
Thanks, Steve. God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless you. All right, we'll have him back because I'm on board with it now. This part of the program brought to you by the Wellness Company. Be prepared, not scared. The Wellness Company has these great emergency kits that you can put right in your house. It has antibiotics, antivirals, antibacterials, all sorts of medications that you need on your shelf in case of emergency. The Wellness Company is there. They are the gold standard. They're doctors like Peter McCullough on this program on a regular basis because I trust them. And I have their kits in my house. You should as well. Go to twc.health/Gruber. You'll save money and you'll have peace of mind. These kits are the gold standard to making sure you're not caught in a pinch, a blackout, a blizzard, something more egregious. Doesn't matter. You'll have what you need when you need it. twc.health/Gruber. Find out more right now. I'll be back. Well, good to have you back. I'm just scrolling through the weather here. Ivy, I just sent you a screenshot. Ivy's back with me now because I'm in
Good
D.C.
morning.
and she's at the home office. I saw that the weather app gave me a warning for
Oh man.
where you are, right? Then I just looked ahead to Wednesday here in D.C. 100 degrees and
Woo.
humid. You know how much I love that.
I would suggest staying indoors, Steve. It's kind of like
Yeah.
winter, in summertime, you just stay indoors.
Yeah, it's that's a
crazy.
little interesting. I'm gonna have to find some much lighter weight shirts, that's for sure. Anyhow, 100 degrees in the nation. It's not unusual. No, it's not climate change. It's Washington
It's
in
summer.
the summer. Yeah, that's the way it is. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to remind everyone that exactly 2 years ago today, on July 13th, 2024, President Trump survived an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. I still think, and I think that's just B-roll, but you can actually play that, Anthony, as he was, carted off, surrounded by the Secret Service agents, and that very famous where he's saying, "Fight, fight, fight." I think it's all very important for us to remember how crazy that day was, but also that he has a target on his back every single day. And I hope that we can rally around him and pray for him because, no more than probably Iran at this day and age wants to assassinate him. So very, very crazy times that we live in,
Yeah,
for sure.
I was mentioning earlier, noting this 2-year anniversary, that all American presidents are targeted, all of them.
Yeah.
He's targeted far more, I believe. And we were in Milwaukee when that all happened.
Yeah.
And I spent hours on the air with John Solomon in the aftermath of that attempted assassination. We were there for the Republican National Convention, which was, just getting underway. And of course, people were killed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the people who are willing to say, well, he was never actually shot. Didn't really happen. Why did the crowd react?
The
I get
blood
so
on his face running
tired.
down it. It's like,
Yeah.
hello, what was that? Fake?
Yeah, I get so tired of people just filling in the gap with whatever comes to mind. Doesn't have to be factual, just whatever comes to mind, just throw it out there and see if you can get some clicks and make some money. It's just,
Yeah.
we don't work that way, Ivy. We don't.
No, absolutely not. We generally like to stick to the facts. And if we don't know the information, we generally say so, and we try to go find out what is factual and what is not.
Yeah,
But
we tell you
something
what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I wanted to ask you about, there's this push from Democrats and Republicans alike to really make sure that there's oversight protections for assisted suicide and physician-assisted suicide in hospice care. I didn't even actually know and realize that assisted suicide was legal in the United States, but there are
It is
many
in some states.
Yeah, there are many states that it is. I'm sure that you could probably name them. They're all Democratic.
I know that
states.
Oregon and Washington are on the list. I don't know all the states, but here's what I do know.
I can rename them off: California, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and D.C., where you're sitting. Montana requires a very unique permit if people they meet the
problem with it
requirements.
is this. The problem is this. First of all the states you named are blue states by and large, except for Montana. But the MAID laws, medical assistance in dying laws in Canada, have been diluted to the point that I'm depressed. Honestly, I'm depressed. So you can have yourself killed as a teenager. Teenager. I mean, think about that. I'm depressed as a teenager, so you can go get euthanized. More than 100,000 people in Canada have died using assisted suicide, if you will, euthanasia, for things as, and I'm sorry to say, as minor as depression or not feeling whatever. It's been abused. And for people that like to keep track of demographics, of the more than 100,000 people that have died in Canada, 97% plus were white folks, for whatever it's worth.
Interesting. I remember that case out of Spain. Remember the young girl was fighting because her parents were saying no. Well, one of the parents was saying no, you can't have assisted suicide, and the other parent was for it, and they were in a legal battle because she was a
And
minor.
she died.
But it's just, I find this so sad, because you do hear a lot of stories where you might get a terminal illness, and then some people survive that terminal illness. So there's something to be said about hope and being able to get beyond, this sometimes terminal diagnosis or depression or whatever it is that you're facing. It makes me sad, but I wasn't interesting. I do think there needs to be a tremendous amount of oversight when it comes to this, because you don't want patients to be pressured, especially older patients, or you don't necessarily want these older folks to feel like they have to do this too, because they feel like they're burdening their family, and what a terrible place to be if you feel that way. But my heart goes out to them, that's all. It just makes me kind of sad to think about this. I do
It's
have
the
a
devaluation of
positive
life.
story, though.
You've got 1 minute. Go.
Well, there's a cute story out of North Carolina. A 4-year-old stood outside every single day waving at people driving by. And it started to become this trend, and his neighbor came over, and they started waving together. And now it's every day he just is so excited to get out and wave to a new stranger to put a smile on their face. And he has a huge following, and many of his neighbors and friends come over for birthday celebrations. I just think it's a sweet thing to
That's a nice
get
story.
out. Yeah, get out, smile at someone, open the door, wave at them. Just something so small can change and impact, someone's daily life.
It
Don't
sure
forget
can.
that we shouldn't be so busy that we forget these simple things that can really brighten someone's day.
Tell them they're doing a good job. That can change.
Yeah.
Hey, you're doing a nice job. That's always a good thing. Ivy, love you.
Love you too.
All right, we'll be right back. Final thoughts. All right. The race to replace Lindsey Graham, who died over the weekend at the age of 71, to replace him as the senator from the state of South Carolina. We'll see how that plays out. Tim is now the senior senator from the state of South Carolina, Tim Scott, of course. Now the senior senator from South Carolina after the, look, it's shocking. I was not a Lindsey Graham fan most of the time, but some of the things he did were worthy. He fought for President Trump's agenda and had just told the president that he saw a path forward for the Save America Act, which is the most critical piece of legislation in years, in my estimation, to make sure that our elections are fair, secure, and have integrity. Nothing's more important in this republic than that. And I certainly hope that the Governor McMaster, the governor of South Carolina, does some vetting. How do you feel about the Save America Act? How do you feel about important issues that are in front of the United States Congress right now? How would you vote on this, this, and this? Specifically, behind closed doors, how would you vote on this? No wiggle room, no debate. I need to know exactly how you stand on this. No wavering, no waffling. Do you stand with America? That's the question. This part of the program brought to you by my good friends at PureClean's Veterans Initiative, PureVet, because life after service deserves opportunity, ownership, and purpose. PureClean's a great company. They're in the restoration business. I've worked with them. They do marvelous work. And if you're a veteran or know somebody who is, this is your chance to get a franchise. You jump to the head of the line, they'll save you some money, and they'll get you rolling to do good things in your community. Find out more. 855-PureVet or purevet.com. That's going to do it for us for today here in Washington, D.C. A busy week ahead. Some big stories are going to break this week. That's why Real America's Voice said, Steve, we need you in Washington. I said, I'm your guy. I'll be here all week. Tip the wait staff. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, only you can save America.